And we're off. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 423 of the All Dolphins podcast on this Wednesday, December 4th, 2024, joined by Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel, host of the Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. How are you, Perk?
I'm good, man. I got 72% on my phone here. I should plug it in, but I'm going to roll the dice, baby. Let's do it. Let's see what this battery is like.
So you're basically telling me we're on a time crunch before we even start when we got a lot to get to.
Let's be efficient. Let's be efficient.
This is a show that's going to, I'm trying to be corny here and get to a pun here. We're going to try to get it down to a T because we're going to be talking about toughness, Tua, tackles, Tyreek, trolling. That's all I have for T's.
I like that.
Thank you. Roster moves, injury update, players returning to practice. But quick, as I said, today, December 4th. Not because I said it, but today's December 4th. It's the 39th anniversary of one of the greatest backup performances for one quarter by a Dolphin player ever, 2005. The player was Sage Rosenfels, who came in against the Buffalo Bills toward the end of the 2005 season, Nick Saban's first year as head coach. Dolphins were down 21-3, gave up a safety on a sack, down 23-3. In the fourth quarter alone, Sage Rosenfels threw for 202 yards and wound up with 3 touchdown passes. Dolphins came back to win 24-23. This was the day Chris Chambers had 15 catches for 238 yards. And it's very topical. This is a great segue here. I'm very proud of myself. I'm going to give myself one of these.
Oh, nice.
Oh, hold on, there. The hearts are popping up. The 202 yards in that fourth quarter alone, more yards than either Tyler Huntley, Skylar Thompson, or Tim Boyle had in any game.
Wow.
While Tua Tagovailoa was on injured reserve for the Dolphins this season.
Nice. It all comes full circle.
There you go. And it is topical because one of the storylines today that we're going to discuss is Tua doing a press conference and basically being asked if he was surprised about the 5-7 record, and quickly, before too long, turning to, I take a lot of responsibility for not, I should look up the quote, basically kind of blaming himself for being too daring against the Buffalo Bills in week 2 and winding up on IR. What did you make of that as I look up the exact quote?
Yeah, I think that's an admirable stance by Tua. I think it's partially a true stance by Tua. But to me, the bigger problem there is the poor planning on the Dolphins' part, Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel, of not being prepared. You should have known that it was a strong possibility that Tua would be injured, whether it's a concussion or some other type of injury. That's been his history. So it is admirable of Tua to say that, but Tua, it's not your fault.
Well, it's your fault for having been careless on that particular play, but yet it's not your fault. The Dolphins got themselves in a predicament. And here's the thing: this is not a shot at Tua, but Tua's he's a good quarterback. He's not the kind of quarterback where you lose him, and despite what else you have on offense, it plop like this.
Correct.
I mean, because seriously, they still had Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Teron Armstead, all those guys, and then the offense for those 4 weeks when Tua was on IR was garbage.
Right.
So again, as I've said before, to me, it's either one of two major issues. Number one is either your system was so geared toward what Tua did well that Mike McDaniel did a poor job of adjusting to the other quarterbacks, or B, the guys you had just flat out weren't good enough when there were so many better options available at the start of free agency. Joe Flacco, Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, to name 3. Jimmy Garoppolo, to name 4 very quickly. So where do you stand on that particular part of the equation?
Well, I've been told that the Dolphins had checked into some veteran backups and they didn't want to blow the 3rd round compensatory pick that they were due for Christian Wilkins. And so they did not want to go for the backup, for the veteran backup. And so they kept what they had. And so that's what the situation was with that. I don't like it. I think that you're trying to win now. That's why you gave up all those draft picks, right? You gave up a 1st-round pick for Tyreek, a 1st-round pick for Bradley Chubb. you basically gave up the future to win now. You went with a bunch of 30-somethings, Poyer and OBJ and all Calais Campbell. Like, you wanted to win now. So to put off the backup quarterback to save a draft pick goes against what you're doing. So I don't like it. I understand what they were saying there, and I understand what they were trying to do, but you're trying to win now. So forget about the compensatory pick. Get yourself a veteran backup. As you said, a Teddy Bridgewater, a Joe Flacco, somebody, because if you're really trying to win a Super Bowl and Tua gets injured, you shouldn't be turning it over to a first-year rookie. I don't care if he's a first-round pick. You turn it over to somebody who's done it before.
No, excellent point right there. Here's the thing, and I'll have to do some research on this. And I did some research before reading the 6 or 7 pages of the collective bargaining agreement dealing with compensatory picks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. I still have hair left because it's like, oh my Lord, it's confusing.
Yeah.
And based on my understanding of it, and also allowing for the fact that I deal with a certain limited intellectual capacity as it comes to deciphering the information, I do believe that there has to be a certain threshold of salary.
Yes,
to
that's
reach.
correct.
And I'm not sure, unless you're going to spend $15 million for a backup quarterback, which wasn't necessary. I don't know that they would have lost the 3rd round pick for Christian Wilkins. They may have lost because right now they have a 3 for. No, I think they have 2 3s: Christian Wilkins,
Yes.
Robert Hunt,
Correct.
and a 7 for, I believe, for Deshaun Elliott. I want to say.
I think that's correct too.
Yeah, good friend of the Dolphins, Deshaun Elliott. Yeah, I don't know that it would necessarily have lost. That it would have been a 3rd. I don't know. Like I said, I would have to check. But even regardless, like as you made a very great point by Perk here, you basically committed so many resources and spent so much money. You're really going to skimp on getting a backup quarterback because you're worried about a 3rd round pick. It's not like the Dolphins nail all their 3rd round picks or 2nd round picks, because it's another part of the news today. We'll move on from the Tua topic. And there's a lot of different places. This is not a T subject, but I'm allowed to skip. My podcast, I'm allowed to skip. So Cam Smith, or to Cam Smith, to keep with the T. How's that?
There we go.
Thank you. Put on injured reserve on Wednesday. Not surprising if you consider what Mike McDaniel said about his injury on Monday, where he kind of said it like a week-to-week type of thing. So I'm not surprised. And if you read MiamiDolphinsOnSide.com, as I hope you do every single day, those of you who do will have known that I wrote yesterday that Jason Maitre was coming in for a workout today, and he did, and obviously showed enough to the Dolphins that they signed him to the practice squad to take the place of offensive lineman Jackson Carman, who was signed to the 53 to take the place of Cam Smith. And now, are we at the point where we worried Cam Smith is like on a one-way road to Bustville?
Maybe. It has not been a good 2 seasons for Cam Smith. He showed a lot of promise in the training camp of his rookie year. You remember he was breaking up a lot of passes, and then he got injured, right? And he slip on the concrete.
He got double moved a couple of times in practice, and then in the preseason game against Jacksonville, then there was Doghouse City.
Yeah. He never showed anything in games in the regular season. Excuse me. He's a guy who I want to believe in him because the Dolphins do well with cornerbacks. And I know that, and I've said this before, that Noah didn't come through and Cordray Tankersley didn't come through, but there's been a lot of other guys, whether you're talking about the draft or free agency, Byron Jones and Kader Kohu and guys like that have turned out okay. So I kind of think that Cam Smith will be okay, but man, it's been a 2 years of he hasn't shown me much in games. Sorry.
No, correct. And then what's disappointing is, and he was a pick who was made strictly or predominantly with the future in mind, because they knew X didn't have that many more years left with them. So, and instead of acquiring immediate help, I mean, they passed on guys like Zach Charbonnet, who's a good, solid running back.
Yep.
Rashee Rice, who's a good wide receiver, is off the field issues aside. Osiris Torrance, who's a starting guard for the Buffalo Bills, and by all accounts is a pretty good, solid player. And there was a fourth guy there, can't remember, who would have been like another slam dunk who could have helped the Dolphins, and they're just not getting anything out of him. If you're wondering why Jackson Carman to the 53s, because he's already had his 3 practice squad elevations. That means he couldn't be used again in the regular season unless he was signed to the 53. And the Dolphins have issues at tackle with Teron Armstead still dealing with an injury. Didn't practice Wednesday. The best guess again. Who knows when he's going to practice again, but he'll usually be there on game day. And then Kendall Lamb is dealing with an elbow, more so than a back injury. Didn't practice on Wednesday. Apparently, he told reporters in the locker room afterwards that he's going to be okay. We'll be there, but that's not a guarantee. And then you need some depth over there. So again, Carman was elevated the past 3 games, so guess he'll be active on Sunday.
It's an interesting situation there, Poop, because you remember they signed Ryan Hayes back, and you do still have Patrick Paul, and it's like, wow, you're just stacking these offensive tackles, and I think that they are wisely kind of thinking, all right, we've got Teron and we've got Kendall Lamb, and either of them could go for multiple games at any time, and we're not going to take any chances with this. And that's kind of what it tells me, because when you do have Jackson Carman and Ryan Hayes you're just stacking these guys who you think, they're not that good, they're probably not going to play. But to me, it just says, well, we're very aware that we have 32 and 33-year-olds in Teron Armstead and Kendall Lamb, and maybe we don't think that Patrick Paul is there to be the guy that we might need somebody for him too. But it's interesting. It seems to be very smart, but also very we don't really believe in our backups that much.
Yeah, but the other point we have to make is with Carman, if they thought he was just a guy at Jag, they easily could just release him and sign somebody else with the practice squad. The fact that they wanted to make sure to hang on to him to be able to use him. Yeah. And mind you, the 3 games he's played, he's only seen action on special teams. Right. And he's a guy who is a guard / tackle. I think his best fit in the NFL has always been projected at guard, even though he didn't have much success with the Bengals. Mm-hmm. After being a 2nd-round pick, maybe the Dolphins think they can develop him into a good player. So that's a situation to monitor. The good news at practice on Wednesday was Kendall Fuller was back, limited basis, but that's one of the first steps to clearing concussion protocol. I would kind of expect, I will state it categorically, barring a setback, he's going to play against the Jets on Sunday. The other one is Tyreek Hill, wrist/rest, did not practice. He did find a way to get himself talked about again, though. He had this tweet that he put up. And again, good old Tyreek loving to troll.
Yeah.
The tweet is him in the tunnel walking onto the field. This looks like it's at Green Bay. That's at Green Bay. And he's behind Skylar Thompson. And what he says is, love what you do because it will soon end with a heart. Is he talking about himself? Is he talking? Ryan Fitzpatrick was like something going on with Skylar Thompson, who just recently lost a number 2 job to Tyler Huntley. Was that like a dig at Skylar Thompson? If so, is that funny?
You know what? Poop. I've stopped really trying to interpret.
But it's fun.
Yeah, I know everything that Tyreek does, because it's just so, let's see, immature, trollish, a waste of my time. But it is fun. But it is fun, Poof. It is fun. But man, I would love to just be able to ignore 90% of it. I'll probably ignore 89% of it. But he's hard to ignore. He's the best player on the team, and he's relevant, and he's a troll, and he's always active, so it's hard to ignore. It really is.
Yeah, it reminds me of a scene from the movie Fatal Attraction, for those who are old enough, and Glenn Close is looking at Michael Douglas's character going, I'm not going to be ignored.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of Tyreek. And I truly hope it's not a little jab at Skyler losing the number 2 job, because that would be lame. But again, Tyreek says he says it. I like to troll, so
Yep.
and he does. So speaking of Tyreek, I wrote this on MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com, and again, please check it out. As much as I love you guys watching the podcast on a regular basis, would love for you guys to check out the website as well, and check out SunSentinel.com to read my buddy Perk's stories over there as well. And you can check out his pod every Tuesday at noon, after mine, of course, but that's so I wrote about Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, mostly Tyreek, though, that Dolphins are spending more money at the wide receiver position than any team in the NFL, and they're just not getting the numbers. And I know somebody who looks an awful lot like you wrote a column saying something to the effect that I like this offense better than I like the previous offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to tell me exactly why, when the big plays are just not there and the yardage is not the same. And this is excluding the 4 games without Tua. Yardage is down, scoring is down, the big plays are down. So why do you like this offense better?
Because this offense is more stable. This offense is more real. This offense is not nearly as gimmicky as the last offense. This offense is tougher to shut down. Now, what we don't know is whether this offense works against good teams. And so that's a major problem. But what I said was, I feel better about this team in 2 separate columns. I feel better about this team than I felt about any team in the McDaniel era. And that has to do with the direction that they're going. They seem a little bit tougher with guys such as Jordan Brooks and Aaron Brewer and Jonnu Smith. They are tougher. They're not tough. They're tougher.
I'm making faces.
Yes, and I see McDaniel making changes, such as David Long and Durham Smythe and Raheem Mostert. And so he also made the offensive change of knowing that this thing is not working. We need to go to something different. So I like the direction that the team is going. I like this offense because it's not nearly as gimmicky. That the other offense was so one-dimensional. Everything was built off of Tyreek Hill. And once Tyreek was not a threat, which we saw early in the season, well, now you can't run the ball. You can't get the ball to Waddle. You couldn't do anything. So that's why you had to restructure the offense to where now the focus is more on Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane. And now you have better options in the run game. You have better options in the pass game. You still need to rediscover that big play, because that big play does so much for you. It gives you a larger margin for error. It means that you don't have to have 12 and 15 play drives. It means that a 1st and 15 does not crush the offense. So we still need to figure things out about this offense, but I do think it's more stable. It's built on granite instead of on quicksand. And I think if you get a better running back and add a better running back to Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, well, now you've really got something. You've really got something that's tough to stop, as opposed to an offense that's just built on get the ball to Tyreek Hill.
Whoa. Did you say get a better running back? So that means you're ready to dismiss Jalen Wright and Raheem Mostert?
Well, it means that Jalen Wright, Raheem Mostert, and Devon Achane are not built for 15 to 18 carries per game. They're all speed guys. They're all outside zone, cut it back. They're not 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, 3rd and 4, we're going to run. They're cutesy guys. They're finesse guys. It doesn't mean that they're bad players at all. Does not mean that they're not tough players. They're finesse players. You need a little more toughness. You need a little more, I can do 15 carries a game for 6 straight games. That's kind of more of what you need.
No, that's fair. And it's interesting because we talk about the lack of the big plays. There's a major drop off in the explosive pass plays, where my stat is over 40 yards so far this season. They have 3. If you do the math, 12 games is
0. And two in the Jacksonville game, right?
Correct. And then
Yeah.
the other one was the one against John on the busted coverage against the Raiders.
Yep.
And last year they had 13.
Yeah.
But it's actually the drop off is more dramatic in runs.
Yes,
If you look at runs over 20 yards, right? This year they had 4. Last year they had 17.
Right.
And that's a big difference. I do want to turn this to the toughness question because now that's the big. That's all we've heard for the past 5 days since the Green Bay game, and it's everybody and their mother is talking about toughness. My wife came home the other day saying, "What's this I hear about the Dolphins not being tough?" I kid. But you get the drift. And of course, today Mike McDaniel was asked again. Tua was asked. Tua's quote was, I would say that comes from more from an individual in the way that I look at it. It comes from individuals, and collectively, you've got to have all the same mindset. That's why we have team football. That's why you're in team sports. I think you've got to look at it as you are mentally tough and are you physically tough? They have to go hand in hand. If one of those things has a kink in it, it could go one way or the other. That's what I would say with that. Here's the thing. The way the Dolphins are built, I'm not buying it. I will buy this notion that Jordan Poyer expressed in terms of mental toughness, in terms of dealing with adversity within a game. And I hope Mike McDaniel doesn't hate me for saying this because I know he loves saying adversity is opportunity. Well, when the opportunity presents itself in games like we saw in Green Bay, usually doesn't go well. The problem is the way the roster is constructed, particularly on offense. Defense is kind of a separate story, but on offense, everything is built around speed, around misdirection, around trickery.
Right. Correct.
That does not equate that does not equate to toughness. It's like you basically have to blow it all up and redo your entire offensive philosophy. And the Dolphins have sunk a lot of money into Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, and they drafted Devon Achane. And then they doubled up and traded up and drafted Jalen Wright. So it doesn't look like a team that wants to change its philosophy anytime soon. And you can't have both. So I just don't know. It's not fixable. And then the other part of it is, right or wrong, a lot of times teams take on the personality of their head coach. My personality is quirky and he's intellectual. As opposed to, let's say, Dan Campbell, who's talking about biting kneecaps. And Mike Tomlin, who is like no nonsense. The
Harbaughs.
I don't know if you saw the clip there. He was mic'd up for Hard Knocks. I have to check the episode from last night. And he's walking off the field after they beat Cincinnati, and his offensive tackle Broderick Jones like, "Oh, Mike T, I didn't know you were mic'd up." And he's like, "Shut the hell up! Shut your ass up!" I mean, Mike Tomlin is like so insanely no nonsense, and there's like, but again, this is like, so I don't know exactly this notion of toughness. That's all great and all that to say the Dolphins have to become tougher. Tell me exactly how that gets done without blowing up what you have on offense.
You hit the nail on the head. And that's why I don't say that this team is soft. I say it's finesse. And that's what it was built for. This is a team that's built for speed. It's not built for power. You had Chris Brooks. You got rid of him. You didn't want that. That's not the type of player that you want. As you said, they doubled down on the speed with Jalen Wright in the draft. Like, this is the team that they built. They looked at the NFL, Mike McDaniel, and he said, "I know it's a tough physical league. I can outsmart everybody. I can outrun you. We got all these next-gen stats and the analytics, and we've got the great sprint relay team." And it's like, Mike, nobody wins in the league like that. This is why, once again, in 2022, I picked this team to go 8-9 because none of this made sense to me. I was like, the greatest show on turf is the only team that won with this much speed. And they didn't win by a large margin, right? I mean, look, right. They barely won. And so it's like, why would you look at this and think that this is the model that you can win with? And I shouldn't say that. I should say, because it was a good idea. It was a good idea in 2022, but I thought after that season, you should have tweaked it a little bit and started getting more toughness and more power, but they decided not to. We're going to go in 2023 with this same model. Okay, that's fine. At least in 2024, tweak it. No, we're not going to do that. And now, halfway through 2024, you do have to go to more of a running offense and more of a tight end offense because what you were doing didn't work. But the problem is, you're not built for that. You don't have the personnel. And so now you're kind of caught in between. And like I say, I like this offense better, but I don't know if it works. You don't have the personnel to make it work. So I don't know where you are. But again, I don't say that they're soft. I say that they're finesse. And that's what this offense is. On 3rd and 1, you're running jet sweeps. You're having Durham Smythe come over and take the direct snap. You're not lining up in the eye with Alec Ingold and Chris Brooks and just running somebody over. You're not built for that. You don't think that way. And so, yes, you have to have a change of thought and a change of roster, a change of personnel before you can begin to think about being a tough team and playing a tough brand of football.
No, I agree. And to me, one of the telltale signs is you're looking at 3rd and goal from the 1 and 4th and goal from the 1. They're in shotgun both times.
Yep.
And I thought they might have had the formula last year because I had a lot of faith in the defense down the stretch being like a really, really good group. And they were working on their way toward that. And I thought the defense would have to carry the offense down the stretch into the end in the playoffs because I knew there was a ceiling and the offense wasn't going to be able to continue that. And then all of a sudden it's one guy after another on defense, gets sidelined because of an injury. And then, by the time they got to the playoffs and even in the playoff game, the defense actually kept them in the game for until the 3rd quarter and then, eventually collapsed. So, but that's going to be tough.
And listen, like you said, that these are the players that Chris that Mike McDaniel chose, and they're in his image, as you said. They're more cerebral, more intellectual. I've always complimented them on this. This team has a low knucklehead factor, and I'm not saying that you need knuckleheads to bring in toughness, but the guys that you got are definitely more on the cerebral, finesse, speed side, as opposed to that, Mike Pouncey, Randy Starks, Rashad Jones toughness side.
No, that's a very interesting point, and I lost my train of thought because I had a good.
Sorry,
no,
you had a good transition, didn't you? Yeah,
the mind wanders every once in a while. But no, and what's going to happen now is that when the schedule gets soft again, when they play the Jets on Sunday, looking very much like they may not have Sauce Gardner at cornerback because he's injured. Bryce Hall also didn't practice for them today. Same with Elijah Vera Tucker, one of the starting guard. And then their rookie Fashanu was limited with a foot injury. And they had another offensive lineman, Morgan Moses, didn't practice. Chances are the Dolphins are going to roll them and we'll be back to again. Well, maybe this is, and then they have to go play Houston and then we'll see what that looks like. But no, it's a tough situation they've got them. And again, the fact that they extended Waddle to a restructured Tyreek's contract, extended Mike McDaniel, it tells you this is what they're going to roll with. And it's going to take, to me, this offense, as long as it's built this way, it's going to have to be the defense that wins game down the stretch, a la Kansas City Chiefs. And I go back to 2021, the 6th overall pick, and I understand the Dolphins wide receiver core at that point was garbage. And Jalen Waddle has been a very, very good NFL player. But you're not going to tell me that Penei Sewell wouldn't have been a better pick. I'm sorry.
The guy can even throw passes. I mean, come on. Come on. The dude does it all, right?
That one to me that one hurts because it's like and if you're looking at Detroit, why is Detroit so good? Well, because Detroit's good. It's really, really good on both lines. Same as Philadelphia in the NFC. Okay, right. And so when we want to go there, that's where it starts. Let me go back and look at the rest of the injury report. We should mention the guys who came back to practice, officially back at practice on Wednesday. Bradley Chubb, Cameron Good, Blake Ferguson,
Cater.
Cater practiced last week too, but Cater had a back injury the last game. He was limited. Chubb was limited. Good was limited. Don't expect those guys to play this week. I mean, they haven't practiced in a year, so that wouldn't be fair to expect that. Ferguson, I'm pretty sure, will play, and probably Saturday at 4 p.m. He'll be activated. And then they'll have to create a roster spot for him because, again, once he goes to the 53, it's now 6 players designated to return from injured reserve or reserve list for the Dolphins. They have 2 more left in the regular season.
And the Blake Ferguson thing brings the Tyreek tweet back to life, right? Of the Skyler, and you wonder if Skyler is the next man to go.
Would not surprise me.
That's
an excellent call.
Yes,
that's man.
Yes.
So I want you to tweet, if that's indeed the roster move Saturday at 4, I want you to tweet just as Tyreek predicted. There you go.
Yep.
Quickly, rest of the injury report. Teron Armstead dealing with the knee did not practice, as we said before. Let me give you new names. Anthony Walker Jr., hamstring, did not practice. Mike McDaniel, before practice, kind of hinted that he would be out there on Thursday to give it a go. Don't know if he's going to play. And by the way, this is my regular take coach's words not with a grain of salt, but with proper context, because somebody asked him about the performance of Tyrel Dotson as a starter. And I don't know that anybody objectively would look at Tyrel Dotson, unless you're a member of the Dolphins organization, and say that the guy didn't struggle in that game. And McDaniel was like raving and very happy with him and all that. Again, this is a coach standing up for his player. Props for that.
Yep.
But pull my other leg and it plays Jingle Bells. I mean, you know. Did I say that out loud?
I've not heard that. I've never heard that.
Are you serious?
I've never heard that. No,
I've never heard that. Wow. Okay, Perks, it's been a good day. You learned something new.
Yeah.
Other, let's say, injury notes. We Benito Jones limited, shoulder and back. Raheem Mostert, hip injury limited. That's part of the issue with Raheem Mostert. He's been playing a little banged up. His longest run this year is 18 yards. And if you look at last year, I have my list of explosive plays here. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 runs of 20 or more yards. This year's longest is 18.
Yeah, to me, that's one of the big differences in the run game is you aren't getting those explosive plays. And last year, when you had that yardage total and they were number 6, they had a bunch of explosive plays, but from HN and from Mostert, and that's one thing that really helped those numbers. So far this year, Ingold has been injured, and that's hurt a lot because these last few games, you see these guys get the running back, get the ball, and there's somebody right in their face, like right at the line of scrimmage. Ingold quite often will blow that dude out. And so you'll get a little extra, you'll get to the second level quite often. So that's one thing. Not having Austin Jackson in there is another thing. And then again, you're just not a physical team. So all of these things, along with Raheem's injuries, chip into the running game productivity.
Yeah, and then we're back to, after a good start, to the numbers on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. Getting bad again. Yep. I haven't done my research of where the Dolphins stand throughout the entire league, but they're like a little bit above 50%. And again, like I said, they're at
the bottom, definitely.
Not good. Jordan Poyer, rest finger limited. Jets, as I mentioned, the 4 guys who didn't practice, and then Olufashanu, who was limited, and then they had 3 guys listed as full, including 2 guys who are designated to return, including Aaron Rodgers' good buddy Alan Lazard with a chest injury, and offensive lineman Wes Schweitzer finger, linebacker CJ Mosley, who's had a neck injury, missed some games, also listed as a full participant. That guy's a really good player if he's going to play. Dolphins going up against Aaron Rodgers. Mike McDaniel, again, this is a coach being nice. Asked about facing him, something like, you always get excited preparing for greatness, and I tweeted out like, you're being polite, or you just haven't started watching Jets tape yet, because
don't poke the bear.
No, you're gonna watch a Netflix documentary, 3-part series on Aaron Rodgers, by the way.
No, I have not seen it. I might. I don't know. I don't have that much interest in Aaron Rodgers. You gonna watch it?
I don't know. I don't know. I find him off-putting a little bit. So
I don't have that much interest. Whatever.
I do need to watch the AFC North in-season Hard Knocks, which of course
Me too.
Featured the Dolphins last year. That was fun. That was very interesting.
It was.
And you know what? I think that wraps it up. I'm looking at my notes here. I don't have anything else. You have anything left?
No, not really. I'll just say this. I would like to see the Dolphins have a get-right game this week because to me, you're gearing up for the Houston game, right? That's your next big test. You can't overlook the Jets by any stretch. You're not that good. But yeah, try few penalties, get the run game going, find a deep passing game or for some explosive plays on offense. And go into Houston ready for this challenge, right? Just don't go in there and play a soft finesse game and have a lot of penalties and mental errors, all that kind of stuff. Be on top of your game, give one of the best performances of the Mike McDaniel era, and you do that by getting everything right on Sunday against the Jets. So you have a ton of momentum. You will have won, 4 out of 5 going into Houston. Get right on Sunday.
Is a performance like the game against Las Vegas or New England satisfactory, or are we looking for better than that?
We're looking for better. You beat the brakes off of 2 of the worst teams in the NFL, and that's good, but really the sharpness didn't show through in Green Bay, did it? I need something that's going to translate, something that transfers to a road opponent, a quality road opponent. And again, I don't know if that's very few penalties, very few mental errors, getting the run game going, but you need to get all of this stuff right, really, because there's no excuses for going into Houston. If you lose, I don't want to hear stuff about toughness and road game. You just got beat by a better team and you're having a terrible year. Don't let that be the narrative. Get right against the Jets and go into Houston with some momentum, playing your best football of the Mike McDaniel era.
You heard it, Miami Dolphins. The message from Passionate Perk.
That's it.
You go. Follow him on Twitter at Chris Perk. Catch his work at the Sun Sentinel and online at sunsentinel.com. Check out his podcast every Tuesday, Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. Catch my work on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Por favor. Please like, subscribe this podcast here. Appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much.
And we're at 42%. We only use 30% of the phone battery. Look at that efficiency, baby.
There you go. Job well done. Our work here is done. On that note, thanks, everyone. Have a good night.